Hi kittens, I'm Julie Savone, psychedelic facilitator, integration expert, and your guide for this wild ride, the Inner Trip, 365 days with plant medicine. I've helped hundreds of people use plant medicine, primarily psilocybin, to heal, expand, and step into their next level. But this year, I'm taking it even deeper. For the next 365 days, I'm bringing you with me. I'll be microdosing, journeying, integrating, and exploring what it really means to live a limitless life, with plant medicine as a tool, not a crutch. So if you're ready to feel more alive, more clear, more limitless, and you're down to do it with mushrooms and a little bit of sass, you're in the right place. Let's take the inner trip. Hello, kittens. My intention today is to share a little bit with you about my integration from my LSD journey and kind of like what's next, where I'm going next, give you a quick update on how good it can get for me. And then when I was thinking about this question, I received a message from a woman who I have been working on and off with for a year. And she sent me a text and she said, today I was reflecting. It was an on-day microdosing for her. And everything that she had on her vision board from a year ago is now things that are like actually in her real life. Everything from her vision board has come to life for her. And it was interesting. I hadn't really even considered this yet, but she basically had gone through my experiment. I don't believe she had maxed out her psychedelic use and had like microdosed or journeyed as much as she quote unquote could have. And I don't mean that from a way of like I think she needed to do it more, but I just mean that as like the basis of my experiment. But she had kind of done it in her own way, and her result was that everything on her vision board from a year ago had been literally made manifest in her real life. It had all come to fruition. And so I thought that that was a really great example of how good it can get, and I would love to tell you more about her, but also it's a really beautiful example of sort of the different levels of things people can work through in microdosing. So I was on another podcast this morning and someone asked me like, what are the outcomes? What do people get out of microdosing? I told him that it really starts to ascend, right? Like at first, a lot of people come for anxiety and depression relief. And by the end, it's like, how good can it get? Like, what is possible for you? And so I would love to tell you more about this woman and the different things that she was able to do through microdosing, the different benefits she observed. And it was just really such a beautiful serendipitous example of the outcome of this type of experiment, even though that was not her intention or what she was doing originally when she came to this work. So a bit of an update with me. I was going to go more in depth about my integration with LSD, and I thought, you know what, I've taken this integration exercise before. You know what it is, so I just want to give you a quick update of what came up for me. We know through my last podcast where I told you more about the journey itself that the value, sort of these focal points were boredom, right? Embracing boredom, embracing more space, not needing to fill things, appreciation of what is already good. Joy obviously is one that just comes up for me, and coherence, right? So coherence to me goes back to these signs from the universe, these little shimmers that we are on the right path, right? So am I in coherence with my values? Am I living? And I know this word can mean like, it sounds so fluffy, alignment, right? But alignment is like, are we in coherence and congruence with what we value and what is important to us? And is that reflected in how we're living our life and like the things we're doing, thinking, choosing to participate in? So those were what really came up for me. And the big thing that I'm declaring is taking time away from my business around the holidays. And I have so many books. Okay, and if you came to my house, you'd be like, could this girl have more books? And I do read a ton, right? I'm dating again, and people will ask like, what do you like to do in your free time? Like, I read, and I do. I read a ton. Like I can read a book in a day. And I have all these personal development books. I know they're valuable. I know there's so much to get out of them. But when I spend all day sort of in this world, do I really want to go read a ton from a personal development book? No, not really. I'll read like a chapter at a time. So my thing is, it sounds like you're not really taking the time off then, Julie, but to me, it's something that I've wanted to do that I know I'm going to get a lot out of. And it is different than like showing up in my business, right? Reading these books is different than creating content, than coaching, than being on here with you. Although I promise my episodes will continue to roll out throughout the holidays. So I'm not going to be ditching you. And my commitment to further along that declaration to make that all possible is the way that I'm spending my time in the morning, which is really slow. It's introspective, and it goes along with my turning the phone off, all the way off at night, which I love. It's something that I started doing ever since the journey, and I love it. I still continue to do it, and I don't turn the phone off or phone back on until I have really quieted down my mind and really focused on what it is that I am intentionally creating and what I am committed to every single day. So it's a lot of slow, introspective time in the morning. And that time allows me to get in the best headspace possible to meet my day. And through like meeting my day with intention and focused attention, I am then going to make sure that I am able to take that time off at the end of December and just read my personal development books with my cold brew, not worrying about what's going on Instagram. I actually deleted Instagram and TikTok from my phone this weekend. It was amazing. Highly recommend. So I'm looking forward to doing that over the holidays. And I was thinking about, where are we going next? Like, I really like taking the month of November off just for my journey is probably what's best for setting myself up for success and being able to like not hit my tolerance level moving forward. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to microdose during my live round of Unbreakable in the month of December. And I'm really excited. So while everyone else is microdosing psilocybin, I'm going to be microdosing LSD. I haven't microdosed LSD in a while. So excited to share that with you. It's going to start December 1 and run through the month of December. The last on-day text is going to be on Christmas. I'm really excited for this. I haven't run a live round of this program in over a year. And this program, Unbreakable, ties back into the story I'm excited to tell you about my client. So I'm going to do that. And then in the end of January, beginning of February, I'm going to be opening a new round of my program, my incubator, Limitless Woman. And so I'm going to microdose the first round with those ladies throughout February. And then I'm going to go from there. So basically I'll be microdosing, taking a month off, microdosing, taking a month off, and continuing on with really maxing out my use, right, without building tolerance, and doing so intentionally with always asking myself the question, how good can it get? So some things that came up for me with how good it can get recently are the time that I was able to spend with my mom. My mom and I are similar in some ways and very different in others, and I would not say the road to our relationship has always been easy, but she came to Kansas City to see me for her birthday, and the time we spent together was really great. We had some really beautiful, emotionally honest conversations, which is something I don't always feel like we're able to do with each other. I was able to say how I felt about certain things and really hear her, and I felt like she heard me. And that is something, I only have one parent. I lost my dad when I was 6, and my mom is very important to me. And I feel like I might cry, but one thing that I've prayed for, and I really like this idea of being grateful in advance. Instead of like this quote unquote manifesting, like being really tapping into the energy of how good it's going to feel when the thing happens, because you trust that it's going to happen. And so for the longest time I prayed I would like to have a more emotionally close relationship with my mom. Because I do love her, I love her so much, and I really feel like everything that we do with each other or to each other is because we both like want what's best for the other person. I know like I know that everything she does comes from a deep desire to protect me and to make sure that I'm happy, healthy, and well. But the best laid plans of mice and men, right? You can have a beautiful intention and still fuck up the delivery, right? The execution of it. And so it doesn't always land. And we really can butt heads. So to have this time where we got along and really appreciated each other and were able to, like, I guess I felt seen in a way that I don't always feel with her. And so I prayed for the longest time. I would love an emotionally deeper relationship with my mom. I'm grateful in advance for that. I'm grateful in advance to feel like my mom is like a friend, because it's so interesting. Like, I'm so emotionally vulnerable, as she says as she cries on her podcast. And my mom's not. She's not. My brother's autistic. My mom doesn't express a lot of emotion. So I grew up in a household where, like, the people around me were not emoting. And I'm having so many emotions, you know, and it's hard. That was really difficult. I felt like the black sheep, and it made me not sure of how to, like, handle my emotions for a long time. And all I've ever wanted is to feel emotionally met, you know, by her. And so then recently I stopped being grateful in advance to have an emotionally closer relationship with my mom. And I started praying for acceptance of what is. My mom is sober. And, you know, there's that serenity prayer, right? Like, God, grant me the wisdom to change what I can, accept what I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. I fucked that up. That's not, the sentiment is there, but that is not the correct. That's not the correct serenity prayer. So anyway, I just prayed, like, can I accept this relationship as it is? Because I don't, like, I'm not going to not talk to my mom, and I don't want to not talk to her. But it was really hard, like, wanting something and it not showing up, right? It's kind of like, don't date someone for their potential. Date someone for who they are, right? And if you can't live with them as they are, you feel like you need to change them, like they're not the person for you. So I was really praying for acceptance with my mom. And it's funny, I've only been doing that for a couple of months, but I feel like instead of just having to accept what is, I started to get closer to what I really always wanted, which was this more emotionally close. So that's huge. That's huge for me. I'm really grateful for that. That's a big one towards, like, how good it can get. And in this question of how good it can get, I realize also how much I do schedule in my business and working on it. And, you know, as I started to date again, people have asked me, like, oh, you seem to work a lot. Like, when do you have time for other things? And it's interesting because I love what I do. I really do. I love the work that I get to do. I love the people I get to work with. I even like creating content and showing up on stories. Like, these are things I genuinely enjoy. And it doesn't leave a lot of time for other things. And part of me feels like I had my whole heyday. I had a time where I, like, raged. And I feel like I'm in a season right now of building where I just want to be working on my business. But it doesn't leave time for other things. I do have good friends here in Kansas City. I love when I get to see them, and we'll have family dinners, or we'll go to dinner. We'll go out shopping, grab a nice glass of wine, and those things are great. And I don't have the same, like, social life that I've had in other places I've lived. And for me right now, that's okay. But it's also like I don't create a lot of space. And that was reflected to me in the boredom, right, from my LSD journey, but just in general. And so really focusing on when I thought about a question of, like, how do I want my business to look in a year, I was very clear on the work parameters I have, and they were not anywhere near the work parameters I have now. And instead of being like, okay, this will happen in a year, or like, this is what I'm building toward, I instead said, where can we start to work toward this now? Like, where can we make this happen now? So that is a big thing that I'm focusing on, because I had just been massively overscheduling myself for a long time now. And so pulling that back, dialing it down, and having more space to, who knows what I'm going to do here, right? Like, I could do anything. I haven't because I overschedule myself. I know I want to take a big trip to Asia in the spring, and that's going to require setting up some systems to be in place and reoccurring revenue and things like that, so that I can do that and not feel like I have to work. Like when I went to South America a couple summers ago, I did work on that trip, and I don't want to do that in Asia, or like very minimally. So that's something I'm thinking about now when I think about this. Like, how good can it get? And honestly, that question has just led me to enjoy more of how my life is. And that was a big lesson from the LSD journey of, I really like my life. I have a great life. It's beautiful. I love my house. I love my yard. I love the fall. And I have a new puppy. Like, I haven't stopped to really fully appreciate the beauty of what all these things are. So that's a little update for me on how good life can get. Thank you for seeing me cry or listening to it, whatever the case may be. So I want to talk to you about my amazing client who kind of went through my experiment, like unintentionally. So let's back it up. Let's back it up to last October, the last time I ran a round of my program Unbreakable. This woman and I had been connected on Instagram for some time. She's like, yeah, I want to do Unbreakable. She is a structural engineer, and she dives underwater and does her engineering stuff. You can tell how much I know about like her job. But she wears a scuba suit that looks like she's from SpongeBob. And she dives and she engineers on things. I hope she doesn't listen to this and think, what is she talking about? Anyway, so she's a structural engineer. She joined Unbreakable, and at the end, everyone gets an integration call with me, like a one-to-one call during the live rounds. And so I'm like, hey, like, how's it going? So she's telling me all the things that she really loved about the program. She said, I had been interested in mushrooms for some time and microdosing, and it was just a matter of finding like the way to work with someone that felt right. And, I'm so happy I signed up for this program. One of the biggest things that she got out of the program, without giving away one of the days, is this focus on like moving from the energy of the end goal. And so how this looked for her, it can sound really like esoteric and woo, and like, what does that mean? So her thing was that she had taken this one engineering exam 5 times and failed it. So just like lawyers, doctors, like, we have boards, bar, whatever, engineers have the same exams. And so she had taken one of them and failed it 5 times. And it was, as you imagine, really starting to grate on her, because it feels like, you put so much work into it in the study period and then you don't pass, and it feels like a waste, right? And so she said the biggest thing for her was like, okay, I get to move from the space of, I already know I'm an engineer. I know that I'm good at this. Like, this test is not determinative of whether or not I'm good at my job, which I also totally agree with. Like, I happen to be amazing at standardized tests. Like, this is speaking as Julie. So I can pass any bar on the first try, but like, I know there are people who just aren't good at standardized tests. That doesn't make them bad lawyers, right? I have a lot of feedback on the standardized testing system, even though it is like my dexterity at it has really benefited me. So she's like, I'm good at my job. This test isn't going to tell me that I'm good at my job. And so moving from the energy of like, if I already know I'm an engineer and I'm good at that, then how do I show up? Then what do I do, right? And as a result of showing up in that energy, what do I create? And I was like, yeah, babe, like you're a freaking engineer. Like I can clearly tell you're very smart. This is awesome. And I was like, so what's next for you? And she's like, well, I need to pass this exam. Yeah, totally. You're so right. So what we did in our integration call is I learned what kind of studier she was. I learned what she had been doing, because I'm also really good at studying. And I built her a custom studying plan. And then I built her a custom microdosing protocol for her to microdose while she studied. She's like, I really just need to focus on this exam. And then I want to like come back to microdosing with you. I'm like, awesome. So she goes, she follows the study plan and she microdoses with it, which is great, right? Because microdosing is increasing your neuroplasticity. It's increasing like the new connections in your brain. So of course it's going to make studying more effective, right? It's like, you know, a way better like 5-hour energy because not only are you getting more focus, directed attention, but you're also increasing neuroplasticity, which is, you know, helping those what you're learning really stick. Okay, cool. So she goes and does that and she's like, I passed. It's like, amazing. I knew you would because you are moving from the energy because you already know you're an engineer, right? Like you don't need this exam to tell you, and you followed the study plan and microdose during it. She's like, okay, cool. So like what's next? And at that point, I was just opening up my one-to-one liberation, which is a new one-to-one that I had started this year. And I was like, you would be perfect for this. Like, this is your next step. I was like, amazing. Let's go. So I'm not sure if how much she had microdosed in between Unbreakable and starting Liberation. I knew she microdosed while she was studying, but there were like 4 months there where I don't know that she had really microdosed much at all, right? And she's also someone who really likes to follow a schedule. She's not one of those people like, I'm just going to microdose today, which is something I'll get into in another episode. So I know that if she wasn't really following a protocol, she probably wasn't microdosing. And when we worked together on Unbreakable, she had been in a relationship. And then when we had started talking about like, hey, I'm going to open up Liberation, she said, hey, actually that guy and I broke up. And, you know, there were some things that just weren't happening. And I know that I need these in relationships. They're non-negotiables for me. And I'm very clear that I like want to be in a serious relationship. I want to have children. And so, you know, I wasn't really in the space of like fucking around and finding out. It's like, okay, babe, love that for you. Fresh start. Woo. So then we get into Liberation. And she tells me basically what happened with this guy and how she said, hey, you know, these are things that we've had conversations about. I'm not seeing changes. I'm moving on. And so she did, and he came back, made some changes, and they decided to get back together again. And what I love so much about the story is, like, it wasn't a tactic, you know? Like, I think I did this in a relationship that I was in when I was in law school, where I, like, threatened, like, dangled the carrot of breaking up, right, as a tactic to manipulate someone to get them to change. I say that with like a lot of honesty because I've done a lot of work on myself and would not do that now. But she didn't. The way she was doing it was purely like, whether or not it's you, I'm going to be okay. I know what I want. I'm moving toward it. Beautiful. So she did it from a place of real emotional honesty, and he stepped up. They are now, you know, in a much healthier space where she's having her needs met, and he's made some changes, and they're, you know, working toward this ultimate goal of marriage and kids. Okay, so that's how she starts the program off Liberation. And because she's already microdosed at least 2 rounds, right? So Unbreakable and then her study round with psilocybin, part of why people were interested in Liberation was because I offered microdosing with LSD after people had microdosed psilocybin with me. So she's like, I want to start LSD. Awesome. So we started LSD, and some of her big goals were she wanted to get off of, she was on a non-stimulant medication for ADD, Strattera, and she wanted to create another source of income, and she obviously wanted to keep working toward, you know, the ultimate goal for her and her relationship was marriage and children, and like long-term big dreams where she would like to run an engineering firm, like COO or CEO. So awesome. Beautiful. So we started the titration plan to get off of Strattera, and whatever your doctor says for getting off, I guarantee you it's going to be a month. I don't care what you're on or how much you're on. For whatever reason, doctors love to say you could do it in a month. I'm not saying you can't, but I'm also not saying you should. So we lengthened the plan that her doctor had given her because I was like, talk to your doctor, right? Like, tell them you want to get off. We looked at that plan. We extended it. And I asked her, okay, like other sources of income, what are you thinking, right? There's a lot of different ways people can do this. They can do it through real estate. They can do it through investments. They can do it in online space. And she's like, I'd like to have my own digital product. I would like to, open up like a stand store and have income coming in through that. Amazing. And we also got really clear on what are her values, right? So there's a million ways to get to one destination, but you can do it in a way that is in coherence, alignment, congruence, all these synonyms, right? With your values. Or you could do it in a way that isn't and it's probably going to feel really sucky. So we got really clear on her values and we progressed toward all the goals while following the train track of these values. So she got off her Stratera. She is still off it. She has been off it for several months. She registered her own business when I asked her, because we just ended our one-to-one, right? 6 months of liberation together. I was like, what is the biggest benefit you got from this process? She's like, well, I have a registered business. She has a registered business. She has a domain. She has a link tree, and she has a way for people to get her digital product, right? So she went from like, this is a cool idea to like fully executed concept with an online presence. Like we've talked so much about content and creating this like digital product, this guide. She even got like an EIN for her business and all this stuff. Like she went from purely idea to like full execution, which was so cool, right? In terms of her relationship, she actually moved in with this guy. Her and this man are now living together in this ideal home. And moving is obviously one of the most stressful times in a relationship. Like moving, kids, big life changes. Those are times when you're going to butt heads probably with your partner, where it's like not going to feel like the easiest. And so she has been able to like maintain her boundaries, maintain her equanimity, coming back to the idea of equanimity, which is essentially like, you know, if someone is like having a pissy attitude around you and you're in a good mood, can you maintain the good mood even though they're having a pissy attitude? That's equanimity. Can you hold your own emotional frame regardless of what's happening? And that was one of the biggest things she said she got out of it was like, she works with like a lot of grumpy old men. She's a structural engineer. As I said, she dives. She works with a lot of grumpy old men. And they come into the office pissy. And it doesn't matter if they are, she can be her happy, bubbly self. And that was a huge thing for her. So she passed her exam. She moved in with him. They live in a great house. The relationship is going super well, even amidst like all of this chaos. She created like a digital product and like went from idea of I want to do this as a second source of income to like full execution. She one thing we worked on was applying to MBA school because she wants to get an MBA so that she can be on the track to take over a C-suite position in her current firm and one day, you know, run a much larger engineering firm. So we went over that whole process, practiced the interview and the video submission and all of this stuff. And she's definitely getting in, even though we don't know it technically as I record this. I am very confident that she's getting into the engineering program that she wants. And when we really sat down and thought about like, what is the unexpected benefit? What she shared with me was that like a lot of stuff has happened in the course of the 6 months of us working one-to-one together. And she used to really beat herself up when like things didn't go according to plan, when, as I say, life lifes. And what she gained from this process is acceptance that you can't do everything all at once, that, you know, no one's perfect schedule is the way that it happens, right? Like she you know, wish she would have been like further along and like posting content and like having, you know, a following and things like that. But she realized, hey, I was doing a lot of stuff. I was moving. I was applying for my MBA. She has another technical exam that she has to take now, specific to the diving portion of, you know, her position. And there were things that just came up. It's really busy for her in dive season right now. And she said, if someone would have asked me, like, would I want more acceptance at the beginning of this process? She's like, no, I wouldn't have said that I wanted that. I'd have told him to fuck off. But now that I have it, it feels so good. And she, again, was reflecting and said, everything I wanted on my vision board a year ago has now happened. And that is because of our work together, microdosing. So it was a really beautiful thing for her to share. It was beautiful for me to see. And it made me so excited to like, what's going to come at the end of my year, asking myself the question, how good it can get. And so it inspired me actually to go through a vision board creation exercise. And my integration invitation for you this week is to take some time to get really clear on like, what is your ideal life look like a year from now? Paint that picture, write it out, get on Canva, create like a cute little background for your phone. It doesn't have to take too much time. It doesn't have to be complicated, but unless you have that clear idea, you have no measure of whether or not like you really got there. So instead of just opening up the question to whatever, how good it can get, I'm going to dial it down a little bit more about like, what do I actually want? Be super clear on that as we move forward in this experiment together. But I love you so much, kitten, and I'll catch you on the next one. That's the end of today's trip. But remember, the real magic has always been inside of you. If this episode landed, send it to a friend who's ready to step into their next level. And make sure you're following the show so you never miss a dose. I'll be back again soon with another day on the path to your most limitless life. And until then, trust yourself, follow your intuition, and keep asking, how good can it get?